On Friday, I made the decision to sell entirely out of my Palantir position. This was something that I'd been considering for about a month now, and I even made a members only video about it a few weeks ago explaining my thinking in depth. In this video, I'm going to be walking through my thinking and rationale for why I made this decision. Okay, so on October 14th, I started making notes on reasons to sell Palantir. I sat with the decision for a while, even as the stock fell from the $18 range all the way to the $15 range. I thought about selling when it surged up to 20 on the back of that AI news. I'm going to read some of these reasons because I think that they're still valid despite that drop. I find that actually writing down reasons helps me make a decision, and it also helps me look back at my decisions that I've made to look at the rationale for why I made those decisions. So as you can see, the note is timestamped October 14th. Reason number one, I doubled my position at $8. Reason number two, the stock is up 170% year to date, at least at the time of making that note, it was up that much. In other words, it's stolen growth forward from future years. If we expect Palantir to be, let's say, a 5x or even a 10x in 10 years, it having done 170% today means it's stolen some of that growth forward for future years in terms of what we can expect for that remaining time period. The other point is that it's done so in a year where there's many other opportunities in the market, especially companies that I truly believe in. Basically asking myself, well, if Palantir 3x is from 50, that's 45. If SoFi 3x is from 7, that's 21. Which one is more likely in the next 10 years? And then some. So this is what I mean around it having stolen growth forward because it's up so heavily. Number three that I'll add here is that AI demand might die down. I've actually been monitoring the chat GPT usage month over month, and the metrics are just straight down in terms of the usage. And I've talked about this in podcasts before around like the hype cycle and the execution of that hype cycle having a lag period. I think we passed through the hype cycle with regards to, NVIDIA crossing $1 trillion, ChatGPT getting introduced, AIP getting introduced, which is when I doubled my Palantir position. But I do think that there is going to be a lull between now and when the regular average Joe on the street thinks that AI can optimize their productivity in their workplace. I don't think that people really, have the concrete answers to that right now. It's still one of those things where it's early adopters, at least in my opinion. And so I do think that a lot of the premium that Palantir had right now was regards to the AI demand. And I do think that from a macro perspective that there is going to be a lull in terms of that AI demand. I could totally be wrong on that. That's just what I've been seeing out there. The last point that I have here is that by selling Palantir, I can concentrate more heavily into one of my core positions and further consolidate. Consolidation is an important factor in my investing right now. I was over diversified for a long time, and this is something that I want to be able to focus on going forward because I feel like through consolidation in my highest conviction picks, in the picks that I've researched and know like the back of my hand, I think that I have a better chance of beating the index as opposed to holding many positions that I know just a little bit about. So that's another one of my reasons. And also this video is, I'm just recording this on my laptop. As you can see, I'm not at my home setup. My flight was canceled last night. So if you hear Slack notifications, going off in the background or the audio isn't that good, that's the reason why. But I did want to make this video sooner rather than later. I tweeted about this, yesterday. So why did I really make the move now for Palantir? Well, Palantir reports earnings on November 2nd. I was worried that the premium on the stock today would fade away, as we've actually been seeing happen. Palantir surged up to $20, fell back down to 15, went back to 18, and now it's back in that $15 range. Now, of course, it could move much higher. It could go up to $20 on the NHS news, on the S&P inclusion, on earnings. But what I figured in my head was that the risk reward of that happening in the short term was not in my favor because it was so overbought in the short term. I think the timing also had something to do with where I put that money, because on Friday, I bought SoFi with a lot of my Palantir money. So I actually made a post on X about this. I added about $3,000 to my SoFi position. and I plan on adding, more. A few people said it was a risky move because I did so right before the earnings, but SoFi came out and smashed all earnings expectations. I think there's a couple of reasons. I think number one, SoFi is way more undervalued than Palantir right now, especially with what's been going on in the fintech space. Fintech companies are getting beaten down across, whether they operate in Europe or in North America, they're all getting beaten down. I bought SoFi under $7 on the last trading day before earnings. So I bought it actually, I just landed into Vegas and I just bought it in the Uber. SoFi triple beat on earnings in Q3 on Monday and is continuing to execute. And so for me personally, it's much less of a question mark than Palantir is right now in my mind. Now, I'm still bullish on Palantir. I still think the company is going to be successful. Nothing has really changed around my bullish thesis. If Palantir goes down, I'm definitely not against buying it again. I think if it falls down to the $12, $11, or even lower, I would definitely be strongly considering opening a position again. The thing is that investing is not in a vacuum. It's always relative to other opportunities in the market. And I just feel like I had a better risk to reward ratio of putting that money into SoFi as opposed to Palantir, right? But this is also coming from a guy who literally doubled his Palantir position earlier this year at $8. And I posted about that on X. I put, timestamps and everything. I doubled my Palantir position at $8. It was one of the best performing stocks of my portfolio in 2023 in a year where everything else is really down due to rates, due to the macro situation, geopolitical tension, whatnot. And so I figured, okay, well, from a risk reward perspective, forgetting about what happened from this point onwards, is Palantir at $15 more overbought than SoFi at $7? And the answer was yes. Do I think it has stolen some of that growth forward from future years? Yes. Okay, well, do I have more conviction in Palantir, or do I know the company more intimately than I know SoFi? Well, of course not. I know SoFi way more. And so it just seemed like a no-brainer decision for me to do that and take advantage of the fact that Palantir was up so heavily year to date. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm bearish on the company or that I won't buy it again. It was just a short-term move in order to optimize my chances of getting a favorable return. I mean, Palantir might come out on November 2nd. That might look completely stupid because they might surge up to $25, or they might just fall back down to $10, and who knows, right? Anyways, those are some of my raw thoughts with regards to my sale of Palantir and where I stand now. And I think regardless of what happens in the short term, I'm fairly happy with my decision because I am investing for the long term, and I'm not against buying Palantir again. It's just run pretty hot right now. I'm taking some chips off the table, and I'm happy to reassess once it falls back down to something more reasonable.